Welcome to this explainer, everyone. I am so incredibly glad you decided to carve out a little bit of time for yourself today. Seriously, just hitting play is a step in the right direction. I'm here as a representative of Pratimoksha right here in Dubai, and today we're talking about something that is so near and dear to our hearts. We're looking at a very specific and honestly very common barrier that keeps so many people from experiencing the real, actual benefits of yoga. Okay, let's dive into this.
I want you to think for just a second about the version of yoga that currently lives in your head. For a lot of us, right before we ever even step foot into a studio, we have this super vivid image of what a quote-unquote yoga practitioner looks like. You know the one. It's the version where you arrive perfectly calm, maybe fueled by an overpriced green juice, wearing the exact right kind of aesthetic outfit. You have enough natural flexibility to just effortlessly touch your toes, and basically your whole life is in reasonable order. In this idealized little bubble, you're just going to class to maintain that perfect balance. But let me ask you, do you actually need to have it all together to step onto the mat? At Pratimoksha, we constantly reassure our students that almost literally nobody matches this ideal. Actually, waiting until you match it, that's entirely missing the point.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the profound difference it shows between the expectation and the reality of the practice. On one side, we have this highly curated yoga, the flexible, perfectly calm, life-in-order aesthetic that just dominates your social media feeds. But then, on the other side is classical yoga. And this is the yoga we actually practice at Pratimoksha. In classical yoga, arriving totally stressed out, with tight hamstrings, carrying the overwhelming weight of your week, and just desperately seeking a moment of presence, that is the reality. It is a completely authentic, zero-judgment zone. Because classical yoga isn't an exhibition of your wellness, it's a profoundly practical tool for your well-being.
And honestly, we need that tool now more than ever. Because let's look at the reality of where we live. The hustle here in Dubai is undeniable. We're operating in this incredibly fast-paced professional culture. We are constantly surrounded by highly curated social expectations, where, let's face it, everyone seems to be living their absolute best life online. There's this persistent, heavy pressure to appear entirely capable and completely on top of things 24/7. We're working crazy long hours, chasing ambitious targets, and operating in a highly transient, high-achieving community. Plus, so many of us are doing all of this while navigating the emotional complexity of being thousands of miles away from our extended families. It creates this persistent, low-level hum of anxiety in the background of our lives. The pressure to keep up is real, it's heavy, and man, it's exhausting.
And we see this validated all the time, not just in the chats we have before class at the studio, but in the actual data. Nearly 60% of professionals in the UAE report experiencing significant work-related stress. Just pause and think about that number for a second. That means more than half the people you pass on the street or sit next to in a cafe are carrying a really heavy load of professional anxiety. A huge portion of these professionals cite a very specific struggle, the sheer difficulty of just switching off outside of working hours. The work follows them home. The stress literally follows them into bed.
So what do we actually do about this? Well, let's be super practical here. Yoga doesn't magically fix your external circumstances. A session on the mat isn't going to somehow clear out your inbox, lower your rent, or finish that massive project for your boss. We can't change the intense demands of this incredible city. But what our practice does do, powerfully and reliably, is interrupt the pattern. It breaks that exhausting mental loop that keeps your stress response running long after the actual stressor has stopped. It's literally an intervention for your nervous system. Which is exactly why I want you to hear this loud and clear. Classical yoga does not ask for readiness. It really doesn't. It doesn't need you to be in a good place emotionally, physically, or professionally before you begin. It simply asks that you show up with some degree of willingness, not perfection, just presence. What the older texts are remarkably consistent on is that you don't need any prior experience, you just need to be willing to be in the room. I really want you to let that sink in for a moment. You do not have to earn your place on the mat by being calm first.
So, the crucial point is understanding what the physical postures actually are. As our founder, Lalitha Viswanath, continually teaches us, asana, which is the physical practice of yoga, is wildly misunderstood. It is not a fitness goal. It's not about twisting yourself into a pretzel to prove how athletic you are. It's simply one limb of an 8-limbed path. Its true purpose is to steady your body, so that your mind can finally begin to settle. That is all. We use the body as a tool to access and calm the mind. Think of it as a highly practical technology for mental settling.
This means we have to completely reframe how we view our practice space. The mat is not a performance stage. I'm going to say that again. The mat is not a stage for you to perform your wellness. If you arrive at our studio feeling physically tight, completely distracted by some email, or emotionally frayed,
you need to know that this isn't a problem you have to solve before you walk through our doors. Your correct state of chaos or your exhaustion, that's the exact starting point. The practice is literally designed to meet you exactly there.
And this brings us to the very core of who we are at Pratimoksha. Lalitha Viswanath established this studio after more than 19 years of classical study and teaching, and she built it on this exact principle. As she often says, our role is to hold space, not to push students toward an outcome, but to help them arrive more fully in their own experience. That is our rock-solid commitment to you. We aren't here to force you into a specific shape or demand a specific mood from you. We are here to hold a safe, steady space for you to simply be.
And this brilliantly illustrates what actually happens in practice. When life feels like it's just way too much, the mechanics of our classes go to work. And the best part? You don't even need to believe in yoga for this to work. You just need to be in the room. Through carefully structured movement, the practice first guides your attention, pulling it away from the spinning thoughts of your day. Then it actively regulates your breath, moving it from that shallow, anxious place to deep and rhythmic. And finally, through that breath and focused attention, it literally downshifts your nervous system right out of fight or flight mode. It is a structured, real, physiological shift.
Listen, if you are hearing this right now and feeling the heavy, heavy weight of burnout, please hear me on this. There is absolutely no requirement to perform wellness here. The yoga therapy approach we use at Pratimoksha is built on understanding that you are carrying your own specific weight. We don't expect you to arrive perfectly centered, and we certainly don't demand that you leave miraculously transformed. You are allowed to just be tired. You're allowed to just be stressed. We meet you right there.
So let me ask you directly, kind of as a genuine challenge here. Are you waiting for things to settle before you start? Are you telling yourself that you'll book a class when work finally calms down, or when you magically have more energy, or when you feel just a little bit more ready? Because let's be honest, we all know that in a city like Dubai, that waiting can stretch on forever. The horizon of when things quote-unquote settle down just keeps moving further and further away.
The reality is, things may not get tidier before you begin. Your schedule might not miraculously open up, and that is precisely exactly why the mat is there waiting for you. Because we offer a space that does not judge your starting point. Whatever mess, whatever tension, whatever fatigue you bring through our doors, it's welcome. It is totally valid. Honestly, it's the perfect place to begin.
Let's move to and see how this builds. If you are even slightly curious about starting or maybe returning to a practice after a long time away, we want to extend a really genuine invitation. At Pratimoksha, we offer a trial session that is explicitly designed to be accessible and completely unhurried. It is a super low-pressure environment. You do not need any prior experience. You don't need any particular level of fitness, nothing like that. I want to leave you with a final, very simple thought today, and I really hope it brings you a sense of relief. Just come as you are. That has always been enough. You don't have to have it all together. You just have to show up. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. If you no longer have to wait until you are perfect to begin, what's truly holding you back? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. We truly, truly hope to see you on the mat at Pratimoksha very soon.